Now, Tim Walz has said that the Democrats are on the offensive and that they have the ball. Well, that ball will be passed to Kamala Harris tonight. It is the fourth and the final night of the Democrat National Convention, and Kamala Harris is already being referred to as Madam President by the Democrats, will take the podium to officially accept the nomination and to address the attendees. The theme that Kamala Harris will touch upon is for our future. Her speech is being expected on the same lines as the speaker before her, with a recurring mention of hope, America's future, and also her vision going forward. Now, continuing with celebrity performances, pop star Pink is all set to headline the final night of the convention. As the energy in the blue camp remains pretty high, the protesters will also be marking their presence in the Windy City. And according to Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications, 2 protests have been permitted for today amidst tight security arrangements. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what, of course, is expected to happen tonight in a big night for American politics, we're being joined by Voice of America's correspondent Farron Kane, who's joining us from the DNC Center in Chicago. Again, this is a big moment for Kamala Harris. What are we expected to hear from her as she now officially takes over the mantle of being the Democrat nominee?
Well, that's right. This is the first opportunity for Kamala Harris to address, the convention goers here. She did speak briefly on the first night ahead of Joe Biden's speech to these convention goers, these thousands of delegates that have assembled here at the United Center in Chicago. But tonight is Kamala Harris's night. She is able to speak directly to these delegates and to the general public watching these proceedings, live on devices or on television as it's broadcast around the country. And this is an opportunity for her to set out her plans if she becomes president. This is her ability to address concerns about the economy, to address concerns about border security, to address concerns about the war in Gaza. Tonight is a primetime opportunity for her to be able to express her message, set out her policy goals, and reach voters here in America who will ultimately decide who is the president in November.
Right. Now, Kamala Harris, of course, is not starting off with a clean slate. She's been the vice president for the last 4 years under Joe Biden. So she's going to be carrying Joe Biden's legacy into this election. How happy are people in America with Joe Biden's performance on the economy front? Price rise, immigration is, of course, a big issue, and also this disastrous war that is ongoing in the Gaza Strip.
So this war in Gaza, as you just mentioned, has in some ways split the Democratic Party. This is obviously something that these protesters that are here in Chicago are trying to exploit. But there does seem to be unity among Democrats here at this convention. Now, the issue that you also raised is the economy, right? Inflation has been high. It's been relatively high the entire duration of President Biden's term. But that is starting to ease. And there are signs that the Federal Reserve might possibly cut interest rates in September, which shows that their ability to control inflation might possibly work. We'll find out more about that later. But that doesn't necessarily immediately translate to these kitchen table issues that American voters have to deal with right now. Grocery and food prices are high. The cost of everything, including, clothing and also, petroleum. Gas prices or petroleum prices are starting to ease as well. But these are all things that are on people's minds as they start to vote. And one thing we should keep in mind, voting isn't just isolated to November. People in states like Pennsylvania and others will be able to start casting ballots in just about 3 or 4 weeks because they can cast those ballots early. So voters will already start to make up their minds in just a few weeks.
That's going to be very interesting to watch out for. And just before we let you go, Ken, just to dwell a bit more on this war that is ongoing in the Gaza Strip, how different is Kamala Harris likely to be from Joe Biden, who's backed the Israeli war effort to the hilt on the issue of Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories?
Well, so far, Kamala Harris hasn't actually outlined a policy that would be dramatically different from what President Biden has currently in place. And so, again, tonight's speech is perhaps an opportunity for her to address that. The coming weeks are opportunities as she gets back out on the campaign trail to address that. These are things that she's going to have to answer. I'm sure this is probably going to come up in the presidential debate that she'll have with Republican nominee, former President Donald Trump, in September. So these are all points that she's going to have to make, and the public will soon know about her policies and if they're going to be different from that of President Biden.
All right. That'll be very interesting to watch out for. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us that perspective there from Chicago.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.